time has come, and it looks like we have all of our members at the podium, so we appreciate all of you being here. We'll call this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, the 22nd day of March, 2016. I was married 22 years ago on St. Patrick's Day, and we had our reception 2 days after the wedding, and our wedding is with the most beautiful blossoms on the trees on a 70-degree day in Salt Lake, and the reception was in a blizzard. And so this has kind of reminded me as I look outside now and see a little bit of snow flurrying around. Not quite a blizzard like it was, but this is the time of year when you can get just about anything besides what you want. Who knows? But anyway, it's great to be in springtime and see the seasons change. It's just it's been refreshing to me, and look forward to spring continuing. By the way, that is a miracle, by the way. 22 years of my wife putting up with me, that's a big deal. Just for those of you that know me, you understand what I'm talking about, right?
I got 1.5, and I completely understand.
Okay. Well, we'll begin our meeting today with an invocation by Mr. Sean Wilkinson, one of our department heads, after which our Pledge of Allegiance will be offered by Brooke Stewart, and our thought of the day by Commissioner Gibson. Sean?
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful for this chance we have to be here this morning in this commission meeting, and pray that Thy Spirit will be here to guide our county commission in the decisions that they make, and that they may be wise and receive the inspiration that they need. We're grateful for the opportunities that we have to live in this free country, to have these wonderful freedoms and the abundant blessings that come from that. We're grateful for this beautiful place that we live, and for the rain that we're receiving to give us water for this coming season, and for, again, all the beauties and the blessings that we enjoy here. At this time, we pray for those affected by the tragedy this morning over in Brussels, and pray that Thy Spirit will be with those people, that there may be peace throughout this world, and that we can have that peace in our hearts and do the things that we can do to help those around us, and to build a spirit of brotherhood and peace. Again, we thank Thee for all our blessings, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please rise and join me in
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So, as you know, we have an amazing staff, and when I picked up my folder this morning, there were about 3 options in my folder for the thought of the day, and I wanted to thank Shelley for that. I was going to read a couple of those, but I came across one that I liked as well, that I think she might have sent to me, but I had took a screenshot of it, and it was this picture of Winston Churchill looking as determined as you can imagine he must have been during that time of crisis in the world that he was so involved with. And he said this: "You have enemies? Good. That means that at some point you've stood up for something sometime in your life." And I thought about whether to share that, because I think one of the things that we need so much in our political dialogue right now is a little less rhetoric and a little more kindness, a little more understanding, a little more willingness to look at the bigger picture and resolve concerns in a respectful way. And that's one of my frustrations, I think, with the presidential election. But by the same token, I think there comes a point when one of the challenges we have is whether or not we are going to actually do what we say we believe. And the more I thought about it, I thought there really needs to be balance in those two approaches. And so I thought that it would be good to share that thought because politically sometimes the easy thing to do is to just go along to get along. I think that's caused us some problems in the past. And so I've tried to make it a motto of mine to respectfully and kindly, wherever possible, do the things that I feel are right. And I see so much of that, I think, throughout our community, not just in the political sphere, but in all aspects of life. And it's just refreshing to deal with people who have that mentality and that understanding. There's a lot of them in the room today. I want to recognize our RAMP committee, or members at least from that RAMP committee who do so much, frankly, with little or no, well, with no compensation, with the only compensation being every now and then maybe somebody will say something nice about them, but that's about all they get. Serving our community, and what I've seen is that they do it exclusively, almost always exclusively, with no thought for themselves, with just a desire and a willingness to serve and be a part of their community. One of the things we're going to talk about here in a minute is our Mothers of the Year, and the same thing. When I think of the influence that one good woman as a mother can make on the lives of our community as a whole, it just absolutely blows my mind. I see the influence that my bride of 22 years makes in the lives of our children that there's just absolutely no way that I could do, and I'm just so grateful for those who have that type of a mentality and opportunity. And frankly, we have an awful lot of employees in the county, and I'm just so grateful for them as I look around and I see the daily challenges that they are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. It's hard for us to pay them what they're worth. It's hard for us to resist asking too much of them, because the reality is we know that we work for the taxpayers and we're always trying to maximize that dollar as much as we possibly can. But I just want to tell them all thank you. I see a couple of officers in the room today. We're so glad to have Maria back as our deputy here assigned to this building. She has just done a wonderful job for us and went off on a little side assignment for a minute, but we're glad that she's back with us, hopefully for good this time. And I see Officer McWilliams in the audience. I hope that you'll accept our heartfelt thank you for all that you do for us to keep us safe in every way that you do and that you can. But even beyond our law enforcement, it frustrates me when I hear people refer to government employees in a negative manner, because I've seen them at their finest. And so when you hear accusations and things being said that are inappropriate, as far as calling them names or accusing them of, well, I'm not even going to repeat some of them, but milking the public, for lack of a better term, you can pretty much usually assume that that's garbage. We have great employees that I'm just very, very proud to be a part of. And like I said at the very beginning, doing the things that they believe to be right, and sometimes not making 100% friends along the way, because those things are a challenge, but learning and growing as we go. So anyway, to the two officers in the room and the other employees. Eric, I skipped right over Eric Jones from our sheriff's office as well. So you're hard to miss, Eric, but you're not in uniform, so that explains it a little bit. I hope you'll pass on our thanks and appreciation for all of the hard work that is done on behalf of each and every one of us as citizens of our community. With that, we will move into our presentation, where we have these amazing mothers in our room today, in our meeting with us today, and these individuals have received proclamations from the commission that we were all able to sign, and I was out of town the week that those were presented at the ceremony over at the Ogden Golf and Country Club a few weeks ago, a month or so ago, and so I didn't get to meet them, but I had the opportunity to go back and meet them all this morning and say hi to them, and one of them actually brought their spouse with them. He was happy to be called to say that he was here with her, and that's probably the appropriate factor at this point. We're so grateful for each and every one of you. If you would come up to the microphone, the three of you, we will introduce you and just ask if you have anything that you would like to say to us. But we have something to present to you. And so coming to the microphone today, we have Betty Cottle, who was named as the Ogden City Mother of the Year. And then we also, I think this might be the first year of having two from Weber County. It seems like it, but maybe I'm wrong. But we have Pat Songer, Weber County North Mother of the Year, and Peggy Whitesides, named Weber County South's Mother of the Year. So we are grateful to have you all here representing us as mothers in our community, representing the goodness of all of the mothers in Weber County. And we have something to present to you, but before we do that, would any of you like to say anything from the microphone? If you do, state your name for the record. We'll start with Betty, since she was the one that I mentioned first, and just give us some advice of how to be successful.
Advice? Well, I'm Betty Cottle. I live here in Ogden City, and this whole thing has been quite overwhelming, I have to admit. I know so many marvelous, wonderful mothers. And I am so grateful that I have had that opportunity in my life as a mother and now as a grandmother. It's a very special thing, and I look forward to many more years doing those things that I do with my family.
Thank you. You're next.
Ready or not. I'm Pat Songer. I'm from Huntsville. We appreciate Weber County. I've lived in Ogden City and moved to Huntsville to raise a family there, and I've just been appreciative of all the goodness and the good. I feel so honored, as Betty and Peggy do, to represent the good mothers of this whole community. It's amazing when you think of all they do, and I know that I speak for all three of us to say that we're not comfortable in the spotlight at all, but because we're just not used to that, but we appreciate this, and I really do feel honored to represent the thousands of good mothers in Weber County.
Thank you.
My name is Peggy Whitesides from the south of Ogden. Like they say, we didn't come prepared for this, but I'll just share one thought I had. About 4 or 5 months ago, I was sitting in church thinking about families and the problems that exist in the world, and one thought came to me, and that would be love is the answer. So for all of our trials and the hard times, love is the answer.
Well, I can't say that I disagree. In fact, I think that that's been a very good example this morning. I can feel the love that each and every one of you have, and I can tell that it's not just for your individual families. And that's one of the beauties that mothers tend to be able to express a lot better than some of us. And so I'm grateful that each and every one of you are here. We are very proud of you. We're thankful for your contribution to our community in ways that I'm sure that you may never fully recognize through your efforts as mothers. And we look forward to working with you in the future and having that influence multiply as we go forward. Commissioners, anything else you'd like to say before we go present them these books?
So I was able to be at the country club when they were the awards, and I know we don't have time today to listen to their 3 unique stories, but it was an amazing meeting and an amazing luncheon as they were presented these awards and what some of the things that they've done in their lives and with their families. And so if you have time, some of it I know was printed, but you ought to look at those, because it was they've done some amazing things. So I appreciate that. It was my honor to be able to present a couple of them from the county, and then the mayor from Ogden. And so it was. We all have a mother, and we all have a mother in our life, and that's where our basics come from. You know, my father, I had a father. He since has passed, but he never knew he had kids until we learned how to hunt. My mother will say to this day, he never even knew there were 6 kids running around his house because we didn't know how to hunt, we didn't know how to fish, we didn't know how to go ride motorcycles with him. The minute we learned how to do that, then my father knew we had kids around the house. And so it was our mothers that we go back to and that make us to where we are today. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. So thanks.
I won't say a bunch. I'm the crier up here, so when Betty got a little emotional, it got me going. So I just want to say thank you before I start tearing up too much, but we appreciate it very much. Thank you.
You don't got anything over on me. We have these wonderful books that we'd like to present called The Art of Motherhood. Now, I always hate giving these because I don't think we need to give you advice, but it's a wonderful book and something that I hope that you'll enjoy as a token of our appreciation. Thank you very much. We'll come up and present them, and maybe you'll take a picture with us. Can you do that?
Come on down here, ladies. Let's come on down here in the front there. Why you want to have a picture of Professor Old guys?
For you, ladies. 1, 2, 3.
We have to make some hard decisions sometimes, and we got some lousy meetings going, but that's one of the best ones. I enjoy that. I can do that. Could we get a Mother of the Year every week? Yeah, make me feel better. Okay, well, we'll move on with our agenda. We'll begin with our consent items. Item number 1 is a request for approval to ratify purchase orders in the amount of $351,318.77 dated March 15th of 2016. Request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $85,784.08. Request for approval to ratify warrants number 402680 through 402898 in the amount of $881,513.32 dated March 15th of 2015. Request for approval of warrants number 402899 through 403083 in the amount of $784,264.04. Request for approval of minutes for the meeting held on March 8th of 2016. Request for approval of new business licenses. Request for approval of a new beer license. Request for approval of an amended contract by and between Weber County and the Egyptian Theater for a 2015 ramp-funded project. Request for approval of change order number 11 for the Summit Pass in Spring Park Road and utility project. And request from the Weber County Tax Review Committee for approval to refund the Knight Family Trust, or Ellen Knight as trustee, parcel number 22-206-0014, in the amount of $4,152.77 for a county error. I always like to see us making things right if we've made a mistake, so I appreciate that final item on the consent items. Mr. Hatch, is there anything you'd like to bring to our attention regarding any of the purchase orders or the warrants? Obviously, we didn't have a meeting last week, so there might be 2 weeks in this run, right?
That's right. I'll give the report. And this report actually is mostly for folks in the audience and who are watching online, because the commission, they've already received this information and had a chance to go through it. So it's really just a summary of kind of the higher items that we've gone through. As far as purchase orders go, in the prior week's meeting, there were 32 POs issued for $351,000. 83% of that amount, or $293,000, was for the library, and that was primarily furniture and books. 8%, or $27,000, went to the health department for replacement vehicles. For this week's purchase order run, there were only 17 POs for $86,000. 28% of that, or $24,000, was for, again, the health department for replacement vehicles. 19%, or $16,000, was for our weeds department, and that was for a Polaris Ranger side-by-side. 17%, or $15,000, was for the library, and that was for programming supplies and legal materials. 12%, or $10,000, was for Homeland Security protective clothing. On our check side, last week's check run had 217 checks for $878,000. 28% of that, or $250,000, was a ramp award that went to Far West for their riding arena. 15%, or $131,000, went to library construction. 10%, or $85,000, was for the jail, and that covered utilities, meals, and medical supplies. 6%, or $53,000, was our paramedic monthly service, and 4%, or $45,000, was for the recorder's office for software renewal. And then this week, we had 185 checks for $784,000. 44% of that, or $342,000, was for the landfill, and those were disposal fees, refuse disposal. 13%, or $99,000, was for the library, and that was the Envisionware software renewal. 8%, or $62,000, was life insurance and disability insurance for employees.
All right. Any other questions or comments, commissioners? Anything on the consent items that you'd like to pull off and take a closer look at? This would be the time to do so.
I have no questions about it. I think I've reviewed it already.
I'm good. Want me to make a motion? I'll make a motion to accept the consent items as read.
Second.
Okay. Motion and second that we adopt the consent items. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. They're approved. One thing I wanted to mention in the opening that I forgot and missed is just a reminder, and I'm going to do it now rather than wait till the end because I think some of you may leave, but just a reminder, this is caucus night. It's a very important part of our electorate process, and I'm just kind of excited, to be honest, to have the first opportunity to have a voice in the presidential race for the first time probably ever, ever early in the season, to be able to have a presidential caucus that's early enough in the season. We've had presidential primaries in the past, but most of the time, by the time those have happened, the decisions have been made and we haven't really had an impact. So the caucuses have always been a very important part of our republic and the way that we elect people to represent us, just like we do as part of our republic, electing people to represent us in state legislatures and federal government levels. We do the same type of thing on the local level to elect delegates to represent us at conventions and then take our will through the process. So they've always been important, but I think this year is one of those opportunities to do a little bit more, to have a little bit more of a say on a national scale. And I think it's been fun to see the fact that we're being heard this year, that the candidates are coming through Utah and making stops and asking for our votes. Our population has grown sufficiently that they care, and the timing has changed so that they care about what we have to say. So I hope you'll all take the opportunity to find out where your caucus meeting is tonight and attend if at all possible. You can find those by going to the individual party websites or by going to vote.utah.org, or any of the utah.gov locations will focus or funnel you into a website that can help you find where your caucus meeting is by simply typing in your address. So we hope that you'll participate in that process as we go forward. All right, we're going to move on to our action items. And our first action item is presented by Jared Anderson, our county engineer. It's a request for approval of a right-of-way contract by and between Weber County and a few on our 12th Street project. Bill and Jane Uri, parcels number 104 and 105. Kathy Penrod, or Raptor P LLC. I guess it's just those two. Is that right, Jared?
Yes, just those two. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Very standard and typical of what we've seen in the past, and we're winding down. So we really just have a handful left, contracts to be signed, and these are a couple of those.
Nothing unique about these that we should be concerned about?
Nope.
Okay, sounds good. Commissioners, would you like to take action?
I'll make a motion that we approve the right-of-way contract by and between Weber County and Bill and Jane Uri, parcel 104 and 105, and Catherine Penrod, or Trust Rafter P LLC.
Okay, so those two contracts?
Sorry.
Commissioner, would you like to second?
I second it.
Okay, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Okay, thank you, Jared. We've got a couple more on the list for you. This next one is a request for approval of a right-of-way contract by and between Weber County and Jason and Melissa Vanisco, and this one's on the 3500 West project. Similar situation, Jared?
Similar situation. I believe we're down to just one, I believe, left on 3,500. So
Good. All right, commissioners?
I'll make a motion that we approve right-of-way contract by and between Weber County and Jason and Melissa Vanisco, parcel 51 for the 3500 West project.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? It passes. And before we move on to the next one, Jared, again, I hope you'll pass on our thanks. I know that these things are a challenge for our employees, but I also hope that the individuals that we're dealing with understand our appreciation. It's not easy to have your property impacted for one of these projects, but for the public good, sometimes we do those things, and these are two tremendous projects that are going to serve our community for years to come, and we just hope that those who are impacted will understand our appreciation for what they're doing here.
I'll pass it on.
Thank you. Okay, item number 3, along with that, is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and CenturyLink for additional design and storm drain construction on 3500 West to avoid the relocation of their duct bank.
If there ever was an exciting contract in my world, this is it. It's pretty exciting when we can get two entities to work together to be efficient and effective in the work we're doing. They have two big duct banks that run all the way up and down 3500 West, and by ordinance, they're supposed to pay to raise and lower these when we come in and install our utilities. The cost to raise and lower them is much more than it is for us to run a parallel storm drain line. So we worked together, took a couple months, well, more than that, probably about 6 to 9 months, but we got a check from them for approximately $350,000 to reimburse for that. So we worked together and came out good in the end for both of us. It was just a great working relationship with CenturyLink on this contract.
Okay, great. Sounds like an example of success that we're looking for. Commissioners, any questions, comments, or action?
I'll make a motion that we do the 3500 West project where everybody's all come together and all happy.
Okay.
I'll second the motion between CenturyLink and Weber County.
Okay, motion and second then to approve this contract. It's still kind of hard to get used to not being in the habit of trying to find
Get the
the
number.
contract number, huh? That with our new change in audit in the way that we do our contracts, we don't have to come up with the number. So anyway, discussion to that motion then as before us. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, I don't know who's
Frosty.
representing
McWilliams.
Mrs. Ebert here today, but we'll say Mr. McWilliams, come on up. You're not quite the same, but close.
Good morning,
You're
everyone.
very shiny.
Well, we're on YouTube, right?
That's right.
It's my pleasure this morning to come in and, especially after hearing of all the county expenditures, to present a contract here that might make us just a little bit of money.
Good. Glad to hear it.
In fact, it will. We have a contract that has existed for the past 5 years with between Utah Department of Corrections and Weber County Sheriff's Office Corrections Division to provide laundry services for the Department of Corrections, Northern Utah Community Correction Center. And it's the same as the contract has been the last 5 years. Gets us between $541 and $641 a month doing their laundry for their bedding. So we'd ask that you approve that.
Well, I think it's a great contract because I put the first contract together when I was working there.
I figured there probably wouldn't get much pushback from you, Commissioner.
And we're making just a ton of money on it, and I really appreciate that. Okay, not a ton, but it's been a good project, and I appreciate that we continue doing that where we can do some of those things. So I'll make a motion to accept the contract by and between Weber County and the Utah Department of Corrections for weekly laundry service for the Northern Utah Community Corrections Center.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second then to approve that contract as presented. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Lieutenant.
that. And Eric, if you want to work your way up, this is a request for approval of contract by and between Weber County and Ogden City for facility use at the Weber County Tactical Training Center out of the old Swanson facility.
Morning, Commissioners. Yeah, the contract is between Ogden City, and they have signed this contract in the past with us, and it appears that they want to continue the contract. They train all their officers out there in firearms, self-defense, tactics, classroom training, and force on force in the Simunition village that the county recently acquired. And it's working out really well for them and well for us, and allows other agencies to have access to that when the larger entities participate in the contract. So hopefully we can get that worked out.
Absolutely. Well, good training is a must in all that we do in government, so we appreciate this opportunity out there. Thanks for all you're doing. I went out with my family a little while ago and really enjoyed it, and got a great facility. We're very proud of it.
So we're pretty full out there on the weekends, aren't we?
Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday are pretty much wall to wall, and then during the day it's pretty steady all day long, just half full. So it's
How
working
many
out well.
people I'm sorry to put you on the spot. How many people have been using the range since we started?
You know, I have it by dollar value. About 6,000 a month is coming in on just that
Great.
range alone. So it's working out
Wow.
very well.
That's a lot of people coming
Yeah,
through.
very anxious for the next
We don't
phase.
charge much, so that's great.
Very, very good rate. So, and the public comment has been tremendous as far as use goes. They're loving the facility, very anxious for the rifle range. So.
Yes, I hear from people quite often, folks that are didn't realize we had it out there. I said, well, we haven't had the grand opening yet, but it's coming up soon. And so it's been great. I appreciate that, and that's an important project in Weber County. There's a lot of sports we can do. We can build basketball courts, and we can build all sorts of things, but sporting shoots is another thing we can do, and the ramp folks were helpful a couple of years ago to help us out with that. And so thank you. I'll make a motion to accept a contract by and between Weber County and Ogden City for facility use at our tactical center.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second before us. Any discussion?
I would just like to say, Eric, I just want to pass along my appreciation for the volunteers that you have working there. Very polite, very extremely helpful. I mean, they're right on helping you out any time that there's an issue of concern. Clean Up Brass, I mean, they are just top notch. And would you pass that along, not only to the staff, but also to all the volunteers? They just do a great job.
Absolutely, and they will very much appreciate that. I had that in the notes, and I should have mentioned it, but just last year alone, so from December 1st till the end of the year, they volunteered 1,900 hours of their time. So
It's quality volunteering.
put that
'cause
into
they-
dollars, that's a
very
tremendous
positive.
savings. So thank you very much.
So people need to know that we haven't hired a lot of employees out there. It's all by volunteers.
It is.
We're not paying for that service. So it's been, and the volunteers, as Commissioner Ebert said, they're amazing. They're just amazing. They take it seriously. They take the sport seriously, and they get out, and I'm telling you, it is a great experience. So if you haven't been out there yet, grab your sidearm, get out there and give it a shot.
Come out.
You can only shoot one round a second, though.
Yes. And the
Yes,
volunteers
and
will
you can't
remind
go
you.
fast. But
They're very good at that. Thank you.
I don't
Thanks.
think we ever voted, did we?
We have not.
Oh,
All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Now you can sit down, Eric. I don't know what the ramp folks did to Shelley, but they made them wait till the very end of our agenda, didn't they? It's probably good for them to
Yeah, I don't know why.
just see how much
They're
excitement
used to sitting in chair for all day long. With all the
See-
time they put in.
see how exciting county business can be. All right. Chris Ward, if you'll work your way up. Our next item is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Presort Essentials for mail metering and pickup.
Probably the most exciting part of the agenda today. Mel, just a renewal. The last 5 years, Presort meters the county's mail. That's the whole county. Contract expired, so we're just asking for your approval to renew that for the next 5 years. Straightforward, nothing mail metering, not a lot of excitement, but if you guys have questions, I'll try to answer them.
Okay, any questions, commissioners? You've all seen the contract? Okay,
I'll
motion.
make a motion that we approve contract by and between Weber County and Presort Essential for mail metering and pickup.
I second it.
Awesome.
Okay, motion and a second then to approve this contract as presented. If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you,
Appreciate it,
Commissioners.
Chris. That was the easiest one you've ever done. Charlie is not coming. It looks like our planning director, Mr. Rick Grover, is going to take this one. This is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Logan Simpson Design for a modification of the current Ogden Valley General Plan contract to include new provisions for the creation of a countywide resource management plan and include changes to reflect and actual services rendered.
It's a lot of words. Good morning,
It
Commissioners.
is. Good to see you, Rick.
Charlie must have wrote that.
House Bill 323 requires the county to have a resource management plan with their general plans. We have 2 general plans in our county, and so with that requires 2 county resource management plans. We are looking at an increase in the plan budget that we have for the general plan, which would go from $200,000 to $250,000. However, that $50,000 would be taken up and compensated with UPLPC, Utah Public Lands Policy Coordination Office, a grant we have with them that would take that $50,000, so we wouldn't have a deficit. And basically also part of this in Article 5, it talks about extending the general plan, which we're working on right now, to extend to June 2016. Right now it's December of 2015, and obviously we've passed that date, and so we just want to make sure that we're covered there. Also with this, we will be looking at the possibility of having $25,000 increments with the actual resource management plan, and then once it's fully completed, then we can get the remaining $25,000.
So we don't need to go out on bid on this because it's state law changed and required us to do it, and we can continue with the same bid that we're doing?
Yes.
So is it changing anything in our scope up there? I mean, our plan was supposed to be done December, so now we're gonna add another 6 months. What are we doing different in the next 6 months that didn't already happen by the end of December?
Good question. So what we're doing right now is we're dealing with a lot of work session meetings and making sure that the public is aware of what's going on. The draft of the plan just barely went in January to the Planning Commission for the first draft, and then we'll have another draft of the plan in another month. And in between that time, we're having work sessions to accomplish that, so that when it comes before you, we've definitely got everyone's input.
Good. So just out of curiosity, so if we didn't approve this, we're already spending the money anyway, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, this is a positive thing.
It is. And the
Sure.
grant is definitely going to be positive as well. And the resource management plan, there's 28 items associated in that House Bill 323. And it starts to be a little bit more proactive in giving us a guidance on what we can do to deal with farmlands, irrigation, canals, streams, corridors. There's many things in that 28 bullet points in House Bill 323.
So is it going to change a lot what we had in December? We originally, because I know we started this a few years ago, and we were going to be done in December. Now we're going to go another 6 months. Is there a lot of things changing from our December plan when it originally was going to be done? Is there a lot of things changing in our new 6-month plan, or are we just vetting it a little deeper?
No, there's not a lot of things changing. A lot of things that are happening is we're getting a lot of public input, so they're aware of it, so that when it comes before you, you've received all of the public input.
When do we expect to see it in front of this commission?
We're hoping to have that before you in about another month.
Okay.
So a month and a half in that time frame, we should be wrapping things up and then getting it before you.
I appreciate all the work on that. I know that's been a big issue with that master plan up there. It's been a discussion way before I came here, and I'm sure it will be way after I'm gone. But that's a discussion, and it's an important part of our county, and to preserve parts of it that we want to preserve up there. And it's just it's a beautiful valley. So I appreciate you guys doing that and working hard on it. So
You bet.
I see Jan back there, one of our favorite advocates that's helping guide that along. So I'm just waiting for her to go like this or like this so I know how to vote. So eventually she'll tell me.
So Rick, is this just specific to the countywide resource management plan being added into these two general plans?
Correct.
That's the only purpose of this.
Well, and also extending the date from December 15th to June of 2016.
That purpose, to add the countywide resource plan, or to make the adjustments in the plan that Commissioner Bell was talking about? Or is it both?
It would be both.
And we talked briefly, I thought, about this countywide resource management plan that was affecting maybe outside of county. Are we still working with the other counties to find out how they're planning their side of the mountain?
We are. We're looking at how that's going to transpire as well.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
I appreciate the coordination with PLIPCO. I think that's been a good move for us. We don't sometimes think that we have public lands issues, and so we don't have a lot of interface with the Public Lands Policy Coordinating Office. But the reality is we have an awful lot more interface with public lands than most people realize. Maybe from a BLM perspective, not nearly as much as some of our southern Utah friends, where we have 96, 97, 98% BLM in some of these counties. Right. But we do have a tremendous amount of Forest Service or a decent amount of Forest Service, and those issues are real and similar. And I am excited about the fact that we have now plugged into that resource, which is something that is a statewide resource that's funded by the state legislature and gives us the opportunity to intermingle and share ideas and resources and ideas as we move forward, because we had a lot of challenges with our Forest Service partners, and they're not all bad. There's some good partnerships as well, but we need to figure out how to deal with those. So I hope that this opens the door to that communication a little bit through our department.
That's our intent as well.
Thank you, Rick. All right, motion.
I'll make a motion to approve contract by and between Weber County and Logan Simpson Design for modification of the current Ogden Valley general plan for the creation of a countywide resource management.
I second it.
Okay, motion and a second to approve this contract. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Jan's not shaking her head one way or another, so I guess we did the right thing.
We're okay.
Rick told me the other day that he still is glad that he came here. Jan, should we keep him? All right, good.
Is he all right? Okay. Go ahead and come to work tomorrow, Rick. And
You got another week.
Rick is doing a really good job as our new planning director, and we're grateful that he's here and that he made that jump. We're look forward to working with him for a long time in the future. All right, Jennifer is here for item number 8, request for approval of contract by and between Weber County and the American Long Rifle Association, or the ALRA, meetings and range days to be held at Fort Buenaventura on various dates in 2016. Tell us about this event, Jennifer.
So let's explain that this isn't long rifle with a 300 Weatherby you're shooting 1,000 yards.
No, no. This is our black powder long rifle. Yeah, down at the fort, they shoot into the old hill, and it's something they do one Saturday a month. And in exchange, they provide us volunteers for our school demonstrations for the fourth graders that come to Fort Buenaventura for Utah history. So it's always nice to have a little bit of the unique and the genuine, all suited up mountain men there for the kids to interact with. So this contract just comes to you because it does stray away from our regular ordinance fee where we would charge for the use of that. Instead, we trade volunteer hours for it.
So just a little note on that. We do a lot of black powder stuff down there, and we have camps where you can go stay for 2 or 3 days. You can get dressed up in the garb, in their stuff, in your leathers and lots of leather and little leather, however you want to dress, and go around there and carry your black musket around. It is an amazing group of people down there. And these kids that get to go down there and get to learn some of this stuff that was way back in the day. I don't see anybody in this room that used to shoot black muskets. Well, maybe a couple, but I won't mention you by name. But anyway, get back and you can learn how to do that. You can learn how to play with those guns down there. And it is, those folks are so committed to that. You need to get down and see it. I don't know if you've been down there. I don't know if you've even been to our park down in Fort Buenaventura, but it's off 24th Street down there. It is a most beautiful little park down there. And there are so many great activities that go on that these mountain folks put on, these mountain people put on. And it is just, you need to go see it. It's something, you'll be amazed at what they do down there. So,
well, the Easter rendezvous is this weekend.
That's right.
So tell us about that just a little bit.
So the Easter rendezvous runs about 10 to about 6 in the evening, 7 in the evening. We have food vendors. We have everything on the west side of the pond is period correct. And so that's where all of our rendezvous traders set up their traders row, and you're able to go over and look through their vending stuff, and it's pretty much unique. And then anything on the east side is where we have our food vendors, so that we can actually feed people during the day. So, but we also do have demonstrations through the not just the fur trade era, but up into the Sons of the Pioneers. So
yeah, it's an awesome.
It's very reasonable too. I think it's $2 a person to get in. So
and it's fun. But if you are a rabbit, not a good time to be running around there that week, because you will be in trouble, I think. Just saying that.
Well, I hope not, because Easter's not.
Exactly. So we got the rendezvous and we got a rabbit thing. I mean, it's just complicates that. Eggs hidden in your house in the morning. I mean, but it's worth to go to.
It's always good when our public affairs person puts her head in her hand. That tells you we've gone too far. All right, let's have a motion on this and try and see.
I'll make a motion that Weber County American Long Rifle Association ALRA meetings and range dates, Fort Buenaventura for 2016.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve this contract as presented. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you. Appreciate it,
Thank
Jennifer.
you.
Well, it's time for ramp, unless, of course, we want to do our public hearings first.
And keep them here longer? They could have to listen to our whole, nope, they just said no. I just got the word from those four. No, we'll do ramp.
Colin and George, come on up and present to us what you got for us today.
Thank you, Commissioners. George Hall, I reside here in Ogden, and I'd like to acknowledge other members of the RAMP Committee, Steve Crane, Ann Perry, and Jeremy Dunn, Danette Pulley back here. Who else? Have I missed anyone? Okay. So, and if I could, I'd like to turn a part of the presentation over to Holland Will Banks. So, Holland, if you will.
Sure.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. So George and I take this show on the road this time of year, but we're glad to be here in front of the commission for hopefully final approval of the RAMP recommendations for our majors, and our regular grants. But first, I'd like to give a little information about RAMP just in general so everybody can have an idea and an understanding of what RAMP is. We're so excited that we do have RAMP and the impact that it's had on Weber County, and you'll see some from a lot of these pictures. You've probably been to a lot of these places or maybe been to a lot of these events, and RAMP has really touched so many parts of Weber County that we're excited to continue doing that this year. So in 2004, and then again in 2014, the RAMP tax was renewed. And that's actually a project that Danette Pulley worked really hard on, and you'll see some familiar faces under those hard hats with the commissioners and the mayor of Ogden and George as well. And this tax is essentially a 1/10 or 1% of every $10 spent in Weber County, and that equates to about $12 per household each year. And it goes towards things like trails, bridges. We actually fund a lot of restrooms, which you might not think is a real sexy project, but people seem to appreciate that when they're on the trails. Tons of parks, lots of pickleball courts. We seem to have a lot of those come through. And then again, a lot of festivals, a lot of the things that you see produced at the Egyptian Theater. And then all throughout the county, a lot of different programs are either fully or partially funded by RAMP. So far, almost $30 million of RAMP dollars has been put into the county, and that's just the tax. So on top of that, there's millions of matching funds that have also gone to this, and on nearly 100 nonprofit organizations and municipalities that have benefited from this RAMP program. Free Summer Saturdays is something I hope that everyone has had a chance to be a part of as well. A number of organizations, I know we do have some Weber County organizations that participate in this. Fort Buenaventura puts on some amazing programs that we offer free to children and families to come out on most Saturdays during the summer. Weber State does a lot of programs. The Nature Center. So we distribute all this information throughout the school. So every school child in the Weber and Ogden School District will get a flyer that tells you about the Free Summer Saturdays program. And again, that is all part of the funding from RAMP. So again, you can tell that your dollar has gone further than just the $30 million that was raised by the tax. And we do appreciate the citizens of Weber County thinking that this is important to their community as well. So just a little bit about the board, and I know George gave a quick introduction, but we cannot thank the board members enough. There's 15 members on the board, and these individuals dedicate countless hours going into understanding the project, working with the organization, and then the blood, sweat, and tears that goes in the evaluation process. So again, thank you to the RAMP board. Thank you to Shelley. Shelley is actually the one that puts the heart into it as well. She has been by my side through all this, and I can't thank her enough for keeping us on track and getting us through this process. And I'd also like to thank Chris Crockett for his legal advice, and the other, and Chris Allred as well. They participate really closely from a county aspect. Ricky Hatch and his office doing a fantastic job through the audit process. So you can see it's a lot of work that goes into keeping this organization going. Okay, so quickly I'll run through the numbers just because I think this is interesting for the public to realize what does $12 per household mean. And if you look at it this year, we received about $3.3 million in RAMP funds, and minus some fees and then the easy grants, which are any grant under $2,000. The board had $3.2 million to play with and to allocate or to recommend allocations for the projects. So I'll go through this kind of quickly because it's a lot of numbers and kind of boring. But the way the statute requires us to allocate the money, 1/3 goes to majors. So if you take that 3.2 and 1/3 of it is just over $1 million. RAMP, a number of years ago, I think 5 years ago, awarded a legacy project, which is the Weber County ice sheet. We paid $300,000 towards that this year, and next year we pay another $200,000, and then that grant is paid for. So you won't see that deducted out of the majors. RAMP decided that it was important to have a few legacy projects, and the Hope Center and the Ice Sheet have been a couple of those. It'll be up to the board to decide if this is some direction they want to go forward with. But the only hard part is it does eat into our amount that we have to allocate a lot. So if you can see, that 3.2 quickly became just under $800,000 for major grants. And in request, we had $2 million worth of projects. So that was a tough day to go through all those projects, great organizations. But that gives you a sense of the number of communities and number of organizations that are tapping into this resource, and we think that's fantastic. On the other side, the arts and museums and the parks and recs, 2/3 of the funding goes there. Our municipal grants went up a little bit this year, so $1 of every for a census in 2013 goes to each city. So that went up about $30,000 from the last census that we used. We used to use the 2010 census, and now we're using the 2013 census for updated numbers. So about $250,000 comes out for municipal grants, and the cities are allowed to use that for these same type projects, and we've seen a lot of great projects through that as well. Our Free Summer Saturdays programs, I talked a little bit about that, and that's a $70,000 deduction from this well as well. So 1.8 million divided into two, and gave us under $1 million for each of these categories. And again, we had a lot of deep discussion because we couldn't fund all of them. But again, we made the dollars stretch as far as we go, and we appreciate the commission and all that you guys do to listen to us and hear what we've gone through to understand these projects. So with that said, just real quickly, we do have a new web page. So for anyone interested in applying for a RAMP grant this year, we hope that it's a lot easier for you to get through the process. All the information, all the public documents, hopefully all the questions that you have will be answered through this website. If not, Shelley and myself are great resources. We also provide 2 trainings, 2 in the fall, and we encourage everyone that's going to submit an application to come to those trainings just to be aware of the process and the scoring. That's really what we spend a lot of time on there. And we also are on social media, so please follow RAMP on Facebook so that you can be up to date with what's going on. So that's RAMP. I won't go unless we'd like the pain train to go on any longer for this commission meeting, but line by line each project. You do have them in your agenda, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Any of the board members are more than willing to address those questions as well, but we request your approval for the recommendations on the major awards and the arts and museums and the parks and recs.
Well, I didn't think it was all that painful. Good. Commissioners, are you good?
I enjoy.
Thank
you.
you.
May not be known, but I enjoy hearing about RAMP and about the projects. So.
Okay. Well, George, do you have anything else to add to that presentation? Are you good? She pretty well.
I would just Holland acknowledged all of the great support that we have, but I want to echo everything that she said. First of all, the committee, these are incredible volunteers, and they do put forth an amazing amount of work, and they are very, very dedicated to the process and the fairness and openness that they approach their responsibilities. I want to thank the resources that Ricky Hatch's office brings to helping us understand where funds have been spent and how they've been spent in the past, and so we appreciate the audit side of things. And then also the county attorney's office. Christopher Crockett has been just a great asset to the committee. But really, we couldn't do what we've been able to do without Shelley and without Holland. We realize that they have day jobs here in the county, and so it's
they don't get much done in January and February.
That's right. So we do appreciate the extra time and effort that they put in, because they really are. Holland cuts herself a little bit short, but they really are the heart and soul behind RAMP. So thank you so much for all your efforts.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, I'll agree with that. It's for those who have really taken the time to look at this process, it is very extensive and very thorough. Let me just kind of share a little bit of a perspective here. Well, first of all, for the public, just explain a little bit how this works. Because the ramp tax is a county expenditure, and anytime we spend money, there has to be accountability to that money that is spent. That's why you see this on our commission agenda. In the end, you have to have some accountability to someone who can be voted in or out of office in order to spend money, and that is a really good check. We appreciate that opportunity, and so we try to watch this closely and pay attention, be a part of the process. In the meantime, we also recognize that we want to make sure that these processes are evaluated on their merits and individually, and we couldn't do that without the great help of the RAMP committee, which was set up by statute and functions very, very well. And we've tried very hard to make sure that the members of the committee are thoughtful and thorough and appropriate in all that they do, and we have seen nothing that would say anything to the contrary. We are very, very grateful for the time that you put into this effort, and know that it is extremely time-consuming during certain parts of the year and somewhat time-consuming during the rest. And so we appreciate the process that you go through, and I think it's interesting to always note that from time to time they're always discussing, okay, how can we do this better? How can we improve the process? How can we be more streamlined but more efficient and effective as we go forward? One of the things that I see coming down the pike is that as you could see by those numbers, this process has become a victim of its own success, and there are an awful lot of needs and desires out there, and not all of them can be funded. So I think we're going to have to do a better job all the time looking forward, figuring out which projects really fit into some kind of a master plan of recreation that we desire for our greater Weber County community. I think there was a time when we could kind of just say, okay, we've got this amount of money, and we'll just pick the ones that seem to make sense on their own merits. They still need to make sense on their own merits, but there's going to have to be a little bit of a higher level of coordination. Holland mentioned pickleball courts and the recent craze in pickleball, and this is not to discount that at all, because I think that's a very important thing that a lot of people are doing now as far as recreation. But maybe we don't need them in two cities right next door. Maybe we need to step back and look and say, okay, maybe it makes more sense if we have 4 complexes strategically located through the county that really makes sense, something like that. And I'm not sure exactly how that all works or how it looks into the future, but unfortunately we have to prioritize from time to time, and we definitely don't want to duplicate resources or put this money, frankly, that is so hard to come by to meet all the needs, into projects where there might be other funding sources available, maybe through state resources or other municipal resources or something like that. So we just need to be constantly aware of that, and I think you'll see a little bit of discussion over the next year of how we might be able to coordinate a little bit better throughout the cities and the communities to make sure that we don't have duplications of requests. Is that a fair statement in the way that I presented it, Holland, from
Sure. what
you've heard?
Sure, and thank you for mentioning that. We had a debriefing after all of our meetings as far as process. Like you mentioned, we are running into new, I wouldn't say issues, but new hurdles that we didn't have. For one, we didn't have as many applicants, and then 2, now that we're in the 10-year process, we're seeing just a different cycle of things, and so it's been really great to see how closely the board members pay attention to that. We also did have a discussion about how maybe this board could provide some feedback on how, since they get a county-wide perspective of where a lot of our recreational facilities are, and even where a lot of our events are held. So we hope that we can provide some sort of at least high-level feedback as we see it from a board's perspective, because it does impact the scoring sometimes in the end when you do have two requests that are essentially the same project yet right next to each other. So so that's definitely one of the takeaways from our debriefing this year. I'd also like to mention before you vote on this, we are not required to go before WACOG as part of this approval process. However, we like to, and we did do that a couple weeks ago, and we got the blessing from all the mayors in the county for these recommendations. So just so that you guys, y'all were there, but the public knows as well, that's how extensive we like to broadcast our recommendations and get the blessing throughout the county on these projects.
Great. I think that's a good example. We're looking for all the input we can get from all of our
Right.
partners, and,
Right.
and we may not all get the things that we think are important, but the point is to have that diversity and that input from all of those areas.
And we've had some great comments from some mayors that, again, will just only improve the process.
And I think we've had a great improvement in that process of inclusion from the cities. I
Sure.
think that they're paying more attention. They're not getting caught saying I didn't
Oh, sure. And
see this or get this.
they see the impact in the community that RAMP's had and really what it's done just for our daily lives and our family lives, and they want to be a part of that. So, yeah, you've definitely seen them pay very close attention to the RAMP process, and no one misses due dates anymore.
Good. That's good. Okay. Well, commissioners, you have the list in front of you.
Oh, I've got comments first.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I got a couple comments.
Okay, go ahead, James. then
No,
I'll
you
go
first.
last.
I was
No,
just
no, I'll go after.
chairman.
Sorry.
So really quickly, I think that to Commissioner Gibson's point is that maybe we need to help provide some additional tools that will help prioritize a little bit from a general community perspective. Maybe we can get some of these cities to work together a little bit and kind of talk about what their priorities are, and whether it's art or museums or parks or recreation, whatever it may be. To kind of put some tools into RAMP's hands where they get through that evaluation process. And then they can kind of pick and choose on the projects on all the merits with an understanding of how maybe some cities or the county has prioritized, or the community. I think really what we're trying to lay out is if the board has some ideas on how we can help create to help prioritize or to give you some additional tools that will make it easier, we're willing to help however we can on that.
Great.
I don't think we have a set idea specifically. It's talked a little bit about maybe a generalized county rec plan. But I think that's just kind of thrown out there as an example of what can we do to help. Or is everything great and you're happy with how the process works and no issues out there? And so again, we just want to be good partners in this the
Thank
best
you.
that we can. So
Great.
Well, I think one of the examples of that, it's all going to be, sorry, Commissioner, it's all going to be about prioritization, right, as you mentioned, because the resources are not great enough to meet the need. And one of the examples, or a couple of examples, there are a couple in both of these areas, but in majors for one, one of the items was one that had really hadn't been brought, I don't think too many people knew hardly anything about until the RAMP cycle. And that's not to say that it's not important, but when you've got you've got $2 million in requests
yeah,
and
700,000 in
to spend,
allocation.
and they probably need to be vetted at a level earlier on, that they're not a surprise to the RAMP committee when those types of things get slapped in front of them in January.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, this is a real important thing. So it's one of those things that I think we're going to address as we move on. Commissioner Bell?
Yes, so I think one thing that is important to know about this, the RAMP board, is there's about 18 of them, and it's a non-political board. We have all folks on that board representing different areas. And we think it's very important that everybody is represented. We've got people that represent different things in the county. So as a county commissioner, I'll have people come into my office and say trail people. They don't care about anything in the county but maybe trails. Somebody come in for law enforcement. They don't care about anything but more law enforcement. Some folks may want more paramedic service, whatever it is. It's a health department issue, a mental health issue. They focus on one thing. This board, I have been so impressed that they focus on everything that runs under their roof. Some of them may not necessarily love some of the different things. So one of the examples I'm going to point out is Far West City. They're doing Smith Family Park out there. They had the land donated, worth $1 million. They have put $300,000 from ramp. The city's put money into it. The county even helped them move some of the old railroad ties and everything off to get everything hauled away. They've got another owner out there, a landowner out there, helping with digging ponds and that. We got DWR in Salt Lake, gave them $250,000, I think, this year. So that's a project where we're going to have a beautiful park where we do not have one out in that part of the county. We're going to have a beautiful park for many uses, from fishing, you can ride a horse out there, can go to a picnic out there. And that is where this money comes in so handy, is the start of it. So as the county, we get requests all the time for things. But the request we like was when someone comes in and says, hey, we would like to do this, we'd like to do that, and we're willing to put some money on the line to help do it. And that's where this ramp money is going so far and helping with other things. I saw another one on there, the Nature, the Creative Minds. I've got to know that group a little bit. It's doing amazing things for our kids inner city here in Ogden. Amazing things. And if we don't have our children get educated and have mentors in life, they will become issues later on in life that we'll have to deal with and put a lot of money into. So I am totally supportive of what they do. The volunteers that I brought up with Eric and his group. As a matter of fact, I've asked the departments that I'm over is all the recreation in the county, and I've asked to get a list of volunteers through the county. And we're talking, there's thousands of people that volunteer their time in Weber County. If we had to pay for all that, we couldn't do any of this stuff. And the volunteers, I see what the volunteers from RAMP do, because they meet in our office. They're upstairs in our office, in our conference room, and they come in, they put a note and say, stay away from there. And they work on that, and they are in there for hours and hours and hours. And they volunteer, and they give their time. They have got a couple of sandwiches out of it, and a donut. And that is it.
And I got a sandwich and a donut out of it.
Well, I didn't, but they did. And these folks, I appreciate them. I've got to know a lot of them, and I can't just tell you how important that is to have people in the county that volunteer to do that. This could very easily become something that could be railroaded and could get off the path doing the right thing there. And so they do very well on doing that, and I appreciate what they do there. The cities in our county and the different organization, this is a big deal, $3 million. You look at it over some years of time, that's a lot of money. These are a lot of things we would not be doing in Weber County. We couldn't do. And in our cities and our county. So I appreciate what you're doing there. One last thing, just one note is, so we had about $3.3 million worth of stuff, of money, and we had about $5.5 million of requests. Well, we're able to walk through those and get where they need to. So I sit on different various boards. It's usually a little different number than that. If you have $200,000 to spend, you usually get $10 million in requests. So it's being done. I think the people that are putting applications for this stuff, I think they're real thought out. They're looked at. So my last comment is Mayor Dickamore out in Far West. The first year he came and they tried to put in for some stuff and they got shut down on everything. And I'm telling you, he was frustrated. But he did not just lay down. He stood up, walked in and said, okay, teach me how to do this. I have heard from him. There's not a time I don't talk to him that he doesn't tell me, wow, that ramp is the best thing you got going. Those folks sat down with me. They walked me through. They showed me what I needed to do, how to do it, and how to be successful here. So I appreciate that outreach that you're doing, and I know you give a lot of time, and I appreciate that. So it's a great thing. This is a great thing. And I, 10 or 11 years ago when the ramp, or 8 years ago when it was first put on the ballot, I probably wasn't a ramp fan a ramp fan then. But today, seeing what it's been doing, I just applaud you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, for saying that, because we do actually have a few very valuable members rolling off the board this year, and we'd probably be remiss to miss out on thanking them for their years of service. You can serve 2 3-year terms as a board member, and we work you pretty good in those 6 years. So I'd like to say thank you to those members that are rolling off. And thank you to our new members. Jeremy and Steve are both new members this year, and
Great.
so is Raquel Lee. And the value that they brought and the new perspective and some fresh ideas was really great. So again, thank you to those board members that have served their time and have done such an amazing job. And
Right.
thank you again to our new members.
I hope you'll get an opportunity to bring them in and let us thank them in person
I
before
will.
they roll off. And that's in July, right? Their terms end.
I believe so. Is that right? Yeah.
So I would make a motion that we accept the ramp grant. Is it just a motion is all you need?
The recommendations.
The recommendation from the ramp board, knowing that in the last 8 years or 9 years that we've done this, the commission has felt comfortable enough and confident in the group that we go right with what the board has selected. And so I'll make a motion that we accept their recommendation for ramp funding and start mailing checks tomorrow.
I'll second it. Not sure if we're going to get checks out tomorrow, but I'll second that.
Don't say that.
And I just need to add to that
Okay,
because
Friday.
I don't disagree with anything you said, Commissioner, but it is true that we have always followed the ramp board recommendations. But and it is true that a large part is that we recognize that their recommendations are very well thought out. I just don't want the ramp committee to ever, if we ever have to make a change to the recommendation, to feel as though they have not been heard or respected or that the process has worked well. Because when it comes right down to it, the public needs to understand that whenever a tax dollar is being spent, it needs to be spent by an elected body. And in this particular case, this is the county commission, and I always want to make sure that the public understands that could happen based upon circumstances that are unforeseen. And I hope that the ramp committee, the ramp board at that point, if and when that happens, that they'll be respectful and understand that it's another part of a process, and a very, very important one at that, and that doesn't take away at all from what they have done and what they have prioritized. So I am comfortable with the recommendations as they've been presented today and as we have in the past. And so with that, we'll call for a vote on the motion.
And if I can just add to that, just for 2 seconds, if
And I'm gonna have to
there
add
is
to it.
something we can do to help the process, right? So we never get to that point.
These guys have
Please let us know what it is. If there's something comes up in your board where you're like, boy, I wish we had this or I wish we had that. That's what this whole conversation's about. Whatever we can do to help the process, please reach out to us.
Thank you.
Pretty bad when even
We want to help facilitate the very best decisions, and if you need a tool or instrument, please let us know.
pretty bad when even my own daughter texts me and says, "You talk too much."
Okay, I would like to add to that. I'll call for that. Yay. Aye.
I guess that's an aye on that vote.
Aye.
Aye. Sounds like the motion is approved to approve the recommendations as they've been presented to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank
Ramp committee, feel free to leave if you really must.
Now, wait a second.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thanks. Thanks, guys.
You're working off community service, I already know that.
Public hearing, we need a motion to close the public meeting to convene the public hearing.
Can we just put that next week? I'll make a motion that we convene our public hearing and head into a public meeting and head into a public hearing.
I second it.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Roll call. Aye.
We don't need a roll call on that. So we're into our public hearing to amend the 2015 addendum to the 2002 zoning development agreement for Wolf Creek Resort by adding a concept development map for Wolf Creek to the addendum.
Thank you, Commissioners. In 2015, February, there was addendum to the 2002 Wolf Creek zoning development agreement that shows the remaining number of units that are left and allocated in Wolf Creek. However, the location of the units within Wolf Creek was not shown in the 2000 recorded agreement or in the addendum. And one of the requirements of the county commission and the planning commission was for the developer to come back with a map, a concept development map showing those units, the parcels, and where they're going to be allocated. And so what we have before you is amendment to the 2015 addendum to the 2002 Wolf Creek by adding this map to the addendum. And this comes with a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission.
Okay. Any comments from the petitioners?
I've studied this, and I think you've done a great job on it. Looks good. And I think this is one of the areas where, as government, we're listening to the property owners and the people up there and say, hey, this is what we would like to do. The Planning Commission looked it over, which we don't have to go along with the Planning Commission. In general, we do. And this is a great project up there, and I appreciate them. They're great stewards. So.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
No.
Self-regulate.
Little joke there.
Self-regulate.
Okay,
Yeah. I don't self-regulate well at all.
Check. No, all kidding aside, in 2010 in June, our wonderful community that I've personally raised a family at for 20 years blew apart in bankruptcy. And for almost 6 years, we have, I think, diligently worked with all of our neighbors, all of our HOAs, the Jan Fulmer contingency, who's really done an enormous amount of the work for us as well. But you have a community that has basically rallied and put themselves back together, and only with the support of the planning staff, the commissioners. It's it really, to me, is a good success story and maybe even a roadmap. And last summer we really started getting it going with car shows and pet parades and Easter egg hunts and 10Ks and movie night every Friday night on the end of a barn, and just it's starting to get back to what we really liked before, which is just, this is where we want to raise our families. This is the kind of place we want to live. But all that aside, we still owe you guys. I felt the resort really owed the commission since 2002 some kind of a concept map that finally nailed down what is what and where it is. And for some reason, people in charge at that point never gave it to you. And I think we're going to run things a little bit more transparent than that. And we've worked with Jim Gentry and the rest of the staff. And hopefully what we're giving you today is literally a pictorial version of what that development agreement is. And it says, we're only going to do this much here and this much there. You'll notice that the open space has all been retained, that the density is no more than we were approved. In fact, part of it has been downzoned. We've actually, in our Bridges project, come to you guys with a concept plan preliminarily that's 150 units short of what we were allowed. So hopefully what we end up with, because we live there, because we love what we do, hopefully we end up with a place we're proud to live in and call our home. So it's not without a lot of thanks to you guys and your support in this process too. So anyway, thank you for all you've done.
Will you state your name for the record?
John Lewis, Wolf Creek.
Well, those are you're speaking our language. We appreciate it when we hear things like transparency and public input and collaboration. That's exactly what we're looking for. And we realize it's hard to find something perfect, but it feels like we're sure headed in the right direction.
Yeah,
up there,
we've got
and we
Humpty
appreciate
Dumpty pretty well back.
We appreciate the dedication that's gone into that. All right, this would be the time for public comment on this issue, and I would be, I mean, we can't do this without Jan, so please come up. Thank you. Tell us what you think.
My name is Jan Fulmer, and I live up in Eden. And I have to tell you, Commissioner Bell, you were at the meeting that was held on September 17th, 2014, as well as Sean Wilkerson. And what we got was a tremendous consensus from 14 communities within and surrounding Wolf Creek on what they would like to see. Nothing was gold-plated. It was very practical. the overall emphasis was please maintain as much open space as possible, which is also very consistent with the current draft of the Ogden Valley Plan. What John Lewis has done has been wonderful. You would never think that developers and communities would get together and actually agree. And it was a wonderful meeting, and what John has done is consistent with everything that is documented on the website, Weber County Planning and Weber County IT created for us, and all the presentations, all the raw community input, it's still there. And Rick, I don't think you realize it, but Sean does, how much his department helped the communities in gathering all this input and posting it for everyone to look at. Nothing is being hidden. So we couldn't say this is a wonderful thing that's happening. It also is an excellent example of how you have, I can't think of the word, and this is in the Ogden Valley Plan, to have clustered development to try and preserve as much open space as possible up in the valley. So on behalf of the 14 communities, we're delighted to see this happen.
Great, thank you.
Jan.
Any other public input?
I appreciate what you said about Sean, and we've been working on this for a couple of years. When it started with the meeting up there, I was a little nervous, pretty new commissioner, but it's been a great thing, and Sean has been so good in the county. I know it's a little off subject, but I just got to say this. So if I get emails all the time, people send me an email, say, hey, your plow guys took my mailbox out. And they'll say, I need somebody to talk to about it. So I'll send an email to Sean, or I'll call the person on the phone and say, hey, so I hear we took your mailbox out. Yeah, I'm mad. I want a new mailbox. And I'll ask the guy, he says, so all you do is get bills in the mail. Why do you want a mailbox? If you don't have a mailbox, you don't get your bills. But then Sean goes and fixes it and fixes their mailbox. So thanks, Sean. You just never know.
Who knows? Okay. All right, we need to have a motion then to close the public hearing and reconvene the public meeting.
So motioned.
So moved and seconded.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're back to item number 5, which is action on the public hearing. Is there any action you'd like to take?
Is it just a motion? I'll make a motion. We accept the changes to the 2015 from the 2002 to 2015 development agreement with Wolf Creek Resort by adding concept development map for Wolf Creek to the addendum.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second then. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none. Does this need a roll call, Fatima? Are we okay? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously.
Done. 2.5 years of work.
Okay, public comment. Is there any are there any others from the public who would like to comment on anything additional today in our meeting?
Can I got one more comment. Sure. I'm sorry. So one of the magazines I read is the Utah Construction and Design, and on the front cover up today is Big Man at Big D, and it's Rob Morris, President Big D. This is a Ogden, Utah company, folks. They're building stuff all across the United States. They got 2 or 3 big projects going in Philadelphia now. But these are our folks. They started here in Ogden, Utah, like over 40 years ago. So I just thought it was a shout out to them out there. We have a whole 5 people watching us now. But yeah, it is a great thing. They do a great job. And I just wanted to make a shout out there for that.
Okay.
Do you have anything else to say? Sorry.
No.
I have one other thing, but I'm going to wait till next meeting.
Thank heaven. Okay, we're going to have Shelley assign our closed meeting today, or can that we do? Okay, well, we'll take a motion then to enter executive session to discuss strategy relating to the purchase of and sale of real estate, or sale of real estate.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor? Oh, roll call.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner Ebert?
Aye.
Chair Gibson?
I'm tempted to vote no, but I'll vote aye in this particular case. Thanks for being here.